Hello students, Mr. Young here. Welcome to Chapter 1, Lesson 1. We're getting into it here. First thing we're talking about is measuring time. So time is a pretty crazy thing. For example, all the periods of time are man-made. There's no instruction book, on time handed to humanity when it began, and it said there are 24 hours in a day, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, so on and so forth. So let's talk about some of these measurements of time. 10 years is called a decade. 100 years is a century. 1,000 years is a millennium. My favorite decade so far was the 90s. There's Ninja Turtles, Britney Spears before she went crazy, and I was a kid, of course, so no bills, just Super Nintendo and good times, essentially. Do you have a favorite decade? So historians divide time into another unit called an era. There are 3 eras. Before the written word was invented, we called that prehistory. The next era is ancient history, and that runs from about 5,500 years ago until the year 500 AD. The Middle Ages are considered to be from 500 AD to 1400 AD, and from 1400 on to today is considered modern history. I have petitioned for 1986 to be the start of a new era, the Age of Yund, but so far they're not listening to me. So here we have it, prehistory, beginning of time to 5000 BC, roughly. Ancient history, 5000 to 500, 514, and so on and so forth. Nice little graphic organizer for you. That'll turn out to be useful. Wink, wink. A calendar is a good way to organize time. There are about 40 different types of calendars in the world. Our calendar that we use is partly based on what was called the Julian calendar, developed by Julius Caesar, the Roman, Caesar. This calendar had 365 and 1/4 days on it. Sounds pretty familiar, but it was not exactly precise. A whole day was lost every 128 years, which actually isn't too bad. But this calendar, as a result of being slightly inaccurate, was replaced by the Pope in 1582 after it had lost a whole 10 days. So he essentially streamlined this calendar and told everyone to skip half of October to catch up on those 10 days, and bam, we have what is called the modern Gregorian calendar. And there's the Pope who did it, Pope Gregory, looking organized and very serious. He's got calendars on the mind. So we've been dropping some crazy dates with funny letters in them. What are BC and AD, Mr. Yund? Fabulous question. BC stands for before Christ. So, he was the Pope. So religious inferences, can be assumed. We're not surprised here. AD is Latin and stands for Anno Domini, which means in the year of our Lord. Everyone says after death, but it's Anno Domini. It's Latin. So, as you can see in this picture here, time in BC runs opposite of AD. So it was like 300, and then the next year would be 299, and then you make your way up to 200. So it's like a countdown, like a clock running out up to the birth of Jesus. Now, there was no year 0. It was just, boom, year 1. And then, keep in mind that, in the year 300 BC, they didn't call it 300 BC. They weren't like, oh, next year's 299. Jesus is going to be born in about 300 years, so we got to keep track on that. It wasn't like that. But a note that they did talk about in the book was that not everybody calls it BC and AD. They like to keep it non-religious, and that's when they say, instead of BC, BCE, which is before Common Era, and then AD, they say, is the Common Era. On that note, this is a timeline, something they go over in the book, which is really just a graphic organizer for time. It shows a linear progression. That moves us into digging up the past. So to study prehistory, which is before there was writing, you can't read about it from primary sources, meaning documents of the time, because there were no documents at the time. They didn't have written language yet. So we use scientific methods to determine what was going on back then. We study the physical evidence that was left behind. Archaeology is the study of the past by looking at what those people left behind, what is left behind are called artifacts. Anthropology is the study of human culture and how it changes over time, and paleontology is the study of prehistoric times using fossils, which, of course, is the remains of plants and animals preserved over time. We have a little fossil right here. And that leads us into our quiz, which is a multiple choice quiz. So make sure that you read the book, read the lesson in the book, and then read this lesson. It won't take you very long to read the book. It's only a couple pages. At the time of making this video, I don't have a hard copy of the book yet, just a digital copy, so I can't tell you the page numbers, but I'm fairly certain you can find Chapter 1, Lesson 1. You guys got it. You can handle it. So that's our lesson for the day. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.